A very good evening, everyone. Welcome to Ecoholics, presented the Thinking Tree series for toppers. And we have amongst us a very, very brilliant person today. We have Arjit Shivhare with us today, and who has qualified the RBI DEPR examination. And we are very, very excited to talk to Arjit about his journey. And first of all, congratulations, Arjit, for your for the qualification of this examination. You are one of the toppers. So congratulations from Team Ecoholics.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
We have a good amount of students over here with us today, and I think this interaction with you will definitely be helpful to them, and we'll talk about your journey with this examination, because it's always a daunting task. It's always a challenge for any student to appear in an examination which is of great importance, and every examination is very important for every student, but such competitive examinations definitely define the journey of the examination. So first of all, my first question to you is, how are you feeling now?
Ma'am, when the result came, till now, it is still the sinking. I'm still on the sinking mode, and it is overwhelming. And yeah, so it's a great feeling to be able to serve the central bank in the coming time. So we are happy. My friends, my family, everyone is pretty happy after the result. Yes, ma'am.
Right. So when you were a student and you were thinking about opting for different career opportunities, how did you go ahead to select the RBI DEPR as your competitive examination that you would want to qualify?
Ma'am, actually, I'm from JNU, so some of our seniors who got through in the RBI DEPR. So this is the time when we got to know that there is a good career opportunity in front of us, which is called RBI DEPR, and there is a good atmosphere and work culture in the RBI. They pay you well, and you are able to contribute in some way or the other in the policy making, more so in the monetary policy. So it is a little effort to be able to serve for your country as an economist in terms of whatever contribution and job and role you are given.
That's actually a brilliant thought that you had, because there are always students who would think that they would want to contribute to the society, to the economy, but of course they fail to understand, or sometimes they get confused that how exactly can this contribution be. And I think by cracking this examination, by making policies and by doing the research, analyzing the research, you will definitely do wonders. Moving on to another very important question that I wanted to discuss was that, of course, this examination is really hard, but the hardest part is to start with preparation, because this examination does not provide with a structured syllabus. So
yes,
how did you go about dealing with that?
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, this is something which actually we also faced when we started as a group in JNU. So we were lucky that we have some seniors, so they guided us. But the first time that I faced was the time when I got to know that what exactly in terms of questions they ask, such as macroeconomics, and statistics and econometrics. And what I realized is that earlier I could not qualify mainly because of the eco tricks part. Somehow I undermined it, and because basically you tend to read more and more economics, like micro and macro and growth and development. So we undermined it, and when we started, so it was a surprise for us that they made a whole different section for econometrics and statistics. It happened in between. So in the first time we were surprised because there are a lot of questions, and if the catch is, if you are not practicing much for such questions, then time is a constraint at the end, and then even if you know the question, but you have to skip the question, and the first phase is very important. So broadly, if I say about the syllabus, which is not defined though, but in the first phase, it is more of a microeconomics, macroeconomics, statistics, and ecotrics, few questions on current affairs, and a bit here and there questions about growth and development. So, and this part is the most important part to clear this exam, because the margin in this phase is huge, and which at the end matters, because it is not a qualifying, but the marks count for the phase one also.
Right, of course. Yes, because when we just talk about phase one, it becomes a very complicated task for a student to first of all identify what will appear in the exam. So I totally understand your point where you mentioned that first time we were surprised.
Yes, ma'am.
Because the question papers or syllabus or anything as such is not published, and neither does RBI allows anybody else to publish that. So keeping up to the terms of that, of course, it becomes challenging. Now, another question comes from the phase two part. Phase two, of course, becomes a different game altogether, because it's a subjective question paper. So how did you prepare for that? How did you prepare for your answer writing skills over there?
Ma'am, for phase two, it was majorly dominated by Indian economics. Though in the last, in the last term only, they again gave you surprise through asking questions from microeconomics, and that to 2 or 3 questions. So it was a surprise for all of us, because we usually what happened with the phase 2 is they ask you questions on growth and development and Indian economy, few questions on eco survey, which is for sure. I mean, that's how the trend says. So the thing is, when you are preparing for phase 2, you got to make a mind or an understanding about Indian economy as a whole, which entails both the static parts of our economy and the dynamic. And in the answer, you got to mix these two things. So for current affairs, you can see few good newspapers like the Hindu, Indian Express, Life Mint, or Business Standard. And for static books, for Indian economy, there are books like Uma Kapila, which is a great book, and Mishra and Puri. So you should ideally make few bullet points out of it, because that's the only thing which you can revise at the end. And also considering that in the phase 2, you get only 20 days, which is too less. And then, yes, ma'am. And then you have to start writing it, like giving the introduction, pros and cons, which whatever is asked, and then some way forward. And also what I realize is, over the period, it is good if while answering your questions, you mention few names of economists and a few committees, which shows that you are a well-read person, because otherwise, more or so, everyone knows the argument. So it says that once you write that, let's say Professor Jayati Ghosh or Professor Vijay Sen or Professor Himanshu or Vivek Vivek Devroy, I think, Arvind Pangaria. Once you mention these names, then it adds the legitimacy in your answer, and then you are rewarded for this, for a subjective answer. And you have enough of time. Like, time is not constrained as far as phase 2 paper is concerned. the Indian economy paper is concerned. You have a lot of time, 3 hours, and only have to write 5 questions. So you can prepare very well in advance. And what I realize is every year they ask few questions from economic survey for sure. So after a period, you get the understanding. Once you flip the introduction part or the index part of economic survey, then you realize that these are few chapters which are more important for phase 2 DEPR, and you give more more attention to those particular chapters. And this is how I did it, ma'am. The Indian economy part for phase 2.
Right. Definitely. I think this whole concept that you mentioned with regards to books and notes and preparation, I think that is definitely going to be very insightful for students who are listening to this, because even like a couple of days ago, I was talking to the RBI DEPR students of the batch, and many a times what they have an issue is to identify what is the right time to start with their answer writing practice, because they definitely know that the gap that they're going to get between the phase 1 exam and the phase 2 will be very less. So once you know that you have qualified phase 1, you just, I think, have a week or 10 days.
Right.
And that's not enough time to wrap up everything.
Yes,
so the start of the note making and everything should be from way ahead. So
yes,
how did your process of notes making get started?
Okay. So, ma'am, this time I thought that it's better to prepare the phase 2 first, and then switch on to phase 1. And if you can present it in terms of proportion. So let's make this plan this way, that the Indian economy and growth and development. Do it first, make notes out of it, and then go for or give it more importance for earlier months, and then just switch to phase 1. And so what I did is I made notes from Freud, few 25 to 30 pages notes for the entire book, and growth and development from books like Jingan, which is a good book, and microeconomics is huge, so you can selectively make notes out of it, and growth and development. International trade is a huge book, but you can selectively make notes out of it, because it's seen that models like Mandal framing and questions on terms of trade and currency swap, and few questions on like Hexarollin model. So if you broadly see, there are only 8 to 9 major models from Salvador. So just make notes out of it, and then it would make your life much easier. Once you revise it, then you can further supplement it by adding some facts from the current affairs. And if you do that, then surely it will be reflected in your answer and marks. And so my major idea was, let's make notes for phase 2, and then come to the practice mode for phase 1. And I want to congratulate. Sorry, I mean I'm very happy to share that Ecoholics helped a lot. I took a test series from Ecoholics, gave 10 tests, and then those 10 tests I revised it multiple number of times. So whatever question I got wrong, it was mainly from econometrics and statistics part. Practiced again, and it did play a role. I still remember correctly that in the phase, the section C of phase 1, there were questions of probability, which otherwise I think time would be constrained for me. But because I practiced a lot for such questions, it became very handy, and I got it correct. And I think this is what actually make the difference. And because otherwise everyone knows economics, and I mean, if you studied well in your masters, you are more or so on the same footing, but it is the extra step that you take and that too much ahead of your competitors. So it does pay off at the end.
Right. Absolutely, absolutely. I think you have mentioned a very, very prominent thing over here, that that extra mile, that extra effort that a student would do. You're always at 70 to 80% after doing all that, but that extra push that you give to yourself definitely makes a lot. So that point is very prominent. There are a couple of students also who are here who are asking some questions, so I'll also incorporate a few questions from the chat box. Whatever I see very important. Some students are very curious to know the language that is, the language that, the medium of language that you prepare the exam in for phase 1, phase 2, and of course the interview. So anything that you would want to add over here?
Ma'am, since I studied in JNU, and before JNU, it was the Delhi University. So my medium was English, though I suffered a bit because, I did my class 12th from UP board, which is a Hindi medium thing. And my subjects were PCM and Hindi and English. So no touch about economics till class 12. I was lucky that we somehow decided that let's take economics and pursue it. So, but I faced problem in Delhi University in first year, but in DU, by God grace, we have good professors who helped me. And since then, after second year of graduation, there was a holiday for few months, 2 to 3 months. So what I did those time, I didn't go my hometown and just took those syllabus and readings for second year and then prepared accordingly. So at the end, it helped me. And so even if I don't think so medium matters that much, and B, if you want to improve your medium or switch your medium, you can. It takes time, but if you read a lot and discuss things with friends, and then you get adopt whatever medium you want to take.
Right, absolutely. I think the atmosphere that you are in, the kind of books that you read, and everything actually influences the language that we speak. The kind of academic videos that you watch, or any kind of such literature that is going to influence. So I think you did all that, and it was you were lucky. You said that. I think you were adamant enough to go that way. So I think that is a word of appreciation to you itself. Also, when we come to the last stage, the daunting stage of RBI DEPR, the interview session, I clearly remember that when we were having the mock interview session for students who had qualified for the phase 1 and 2, and they were preparing for interviews, and you were one of the candidates. And I think that the confidence that you had put in that time, it reflected that you had crossed that journey of yours with some determination. So how was your interview session? Please tell to these students.
Ma'am, there are few caveats. The thing is, when the interview, the phase 2 result came, and so I have few confusion in my mind. Should I pursue few other things also at the same time, apart from preparing for interview? But and then I realized that if you have masked to so close to the RBI and the interview call you got, so let's not diversify your sources. Let's stick to this preparation also only. So I gave my full 2.5, I think, months for this interview, made a lot of notes, and though it was a surprise for me that in the final interview or the actual interview which happened, not one questions directly came from what I prepared from current affairs, but I think it helped you in your body language, in the confidence that you entails once you go there. So you knew that whatever they will ask, if it is from current affairs, you will answer them because you have prepared well. So what happened with me when I the interview started, there were a few questions from JNU as usual. So like what is your center, who all are professors, what are subjects you have read in your masters, and then they said that what are you doing right now. Then I said I'm pursuing PhD. What is your objective, what is your topic? And then there were a few questions from how does RBI manage currency, what is balance of payment, and like tell me the number of departments that RBI had. I was not able to correctly recall it, but I said it was more than 20. So it was actually 26, I think. And then at the end, I think it was a DPR person who, senior person who asked me a lot of questions from economics, and who were actually not directly from books, such as solar residual. So solar residual is usually like you'll not find it in solar models.
Many books.
Everywhere.
Yes.
And then what is threshold inflation? There is no defined definition or very precise definition for threshold inflation. Then he said, what is its number about India? And for solar residual, when I answered correctly, then he asked me about what is the total factor productivity for India, which I didn't know because I haven't read it. I said politely, that's what I don't know. And questions from econometrics like dummy variable trap. So, and then he asked me, what is your view on RCP? How is whatever side that the government of India has taken, do you favor it, or you have few reservations for particular point? And so what I realized over the period after giving my interview, though I was not very happy because nothing directly came in from whatever I prepared for those 2 months, but what I realized is be natural, B, don't bluff, because there are people who will catch you once you start. So bluff means even if you are a bit confused, for example, threshold inflation, when there is no defined definition for threshold inflation. So I said that, sir, I don't know the exact definition, but this is what I think it is. And then he answered me that what you think is right. So it is on this line. So, and you should be confident and humble enough at the same time that you should realize that you have got through 2 phases. So in interview, if you don't know the one question, 2 question, they are not mainly judging that. They are judging, are you, whatever answer that you are giving, how well are you giving? There's a conviction in your answers. If you support something, it should be then there should, for opinion based questions, you should take the stand and you should be
logical.
Logical. And if they again cross question you, you shouldn't just change your stand. Maybe you can elaborate more on what you said. So this is, I think, this is for it's a conversation between you and on the other side few very experienced officers from RBI, and it's a conversation, and if you make it normal, natural, it would help you.
Right, absolutely. I think that will be very insightful to students who are preparing presently for the examination. Interviews are normally not conducted to judge you on the basis of your knowledge, but on the basis of the logic and the interlinking of concepts. I think that counts a lot. And I'm really happy. Ecoholics, the whole team was really proud of you to have qualified the examination, and also to bring some really insights to the society, because economics as a subject was not popular enough in the economy for some decades. Of course, it has been a very ancient subject, but it has always, delved into social sciences and art.
Right.
But the logical, practical, pragmatic, analytical part was not really surfaced. And I'm really happy that there are students who are qualifying such examinations at a such young age, and also prominently are the flag bearers of economics for the whole country. So it's really good. Arjit, also now that there are some questions with regards to some really important topics with students, so I'll also draw them from the chat box, and I'll ask you those. So, okay, Hitesh is asking, are the DEPR people posted only in central office or in the regional offices too? I think that's an operational question.
But ma'am, like as far as we know from our seniors who are working in RBI, they said the most of us, like most of you people who are qualified the DEPR RBI, you would be posted in the central office of RBI, which is in Bombay.
Absolutely. Right. And then we have Sonali, who's asking when we start preparation for RBI DEPR. I think that's I think we should not wait for the notification if we want to. if anybody wants to begin, I believe for any examination they should start right away, because you never know when the notification will drop.
Right. And ma'am, at the same time, you should always remember this. I also learned over the period that there are a lot of people, lot of good people who are preparing for such prestigious exams like IES and RBI. So you always have to make sure and put that thing in mind that you have to compete with the best people of at least of the economic subject. And so when this thing is in your mind, you give your better effort, that because seats are limited, there are good people from your senior batch, junior batch, and that to across good universities, and seats are limited. So this makes you that let's focus more and more, put your best effort, and this not so that you can clear it in the first or second attempt only, and because otherwise it becomes very tardy process, again start from the scratch.
Absolutely. There's also Pankaj, and there are many others who had asked about what was the strategy that you used for English learning, because you mentioned that of course you were from a academic background which was not prominently wholly English medium. So what was your strategy, and what books or resources did you use?
So ma'am, in first year of graduation, I started reading the newspapers like The Hindu, though I hardly understood it, but gave more time, make notes out of it. And for this is also a catch, that as far as it may be a possibility that you are very good in economics, and for it is very easy for you relative to other things to talk about it, and as far as the medium is concerned, the English medium is concerned, to write about it, because it is in your practice. So what the only thing that you have to do is put your 100%, and in graduation and post graduation, whatever your readings are, give your 100% to that, like no compromise. So over the period, what will happen is that so you would be reading and understanding so much readings and stuff, so it becomes more and more familiar in your mind, at least the economics part. So over the period, you would be very familiar, and you would become very the economics, at least the economics would become very handy for you, even to write or speak per se.
Absolutely. Also, there are interesting questions about the number of hours that you gave to this examination. Any insight about that you would want to share?
That number of hours, so I didn't count, but I think maybe like on an average 6 to 7 hours if you give, the catch is the consistency. So even if you are reading less, but do it every day. For example, newspapers, you cannot skip 2 days newspaper and then try to
Yes.
go through again in the back direction. So consistently, even if you are giving few, let's say 4 to 5 hours or 6 hours, I think it will help. And over the period, as you would approach towards the exam, obviously the time would increase by itself.
Absolutely. There was also a question with regards to, so you had mentioned that you were also pursuing your PhD, I believe. So was it hard for you to continue with your PhD, because PhD work also is strenuous and patient work that you need to do. So was it hard for you to do your practice for your examination along with your research work?
Ma'am, earlier, like I did face few problems. I mean, earlier it means in earlier attempt, I did face few, because there is always a trade-off between PhD and preparation for competitive exams. But this time, luckily, like my synopsis got passed, so I have enough of time, and I decided that let's focus on the exam right now. Let's see what will happen in the coming days. But this time, give your best effort, and though even at the expense of your PhD for a few months.
Right, right. Also, because the examination is also intended to for you to go into a department which is for
Yes, ma'am.
economic research.
Yes, ma'am.
So
it does help. In
does
that sense,
help.
it does help. I mean, it's my intuition that maybe in interview they prefer for people who have done their MPhil or some research work. You know, it also shows their inclination towards research.
Research,
Yes, ma'am.
absolutely, absolutely. Also, when we talk about research, there are also a lot of statistical tools that are used, and research tools that are used, and techniques which are used. So, did you face any question with regards to any such, research tools, because you were already doing a PhD?
No, ma'am. Luckily, luckily not. And my MPhil is more on a theoretical basis, and it was some comparison of Great Depression and subprime lending crisis. So, like if I put it in one sentence, it was how the financial crisis, so the finance things, affected the real economic activity. In the one hand, on the Great Depression, and on the other hand, the subprime lending crisis. So it was more theoretical, and that's why they didn't ask. And I also talked to some of my like fellow mates who gave the interview. So this thing hardly they asked. So we were lucky that they didn't ask from this.
Right. Okay. Now there are some students who are asking whether to choose to go to qualify an IES examination, Indian Economic Services, or RBI DEPR.
This is something which currently I am facing. I've talked to a lot of seniors. Everyone have different views, but they said that you can compare economic services and RBI. So whenever you get selected, then you can think, but it would be a tough choice for you because there are not some very stark differences in the two. One difference could be that DEPR, it is purely a research field. So you got to research for number of years in the coming time. And in economic services, there is a probability that you get some administrative job to do. Other way, both are good jobs. A lot of my seniors put it on the same footing, that the difference is maybe that is in Bombay and this is in under the central government and government of India.
Right. I think that's also
very subjective also.
Yes, that's what I was wanting to say. Very subjective.
Yes, ma'am.
It's according to one's perception about a particular way or job profile a person would want to aspire to be. So I think each to each their own. Also, you were mentioning about various books that you read over the course of your preparation. There are some students who make heaps of these books and material and notes and all that. So I would like you to give some specific names of the books that students really would be helped by.
Yes, ma'am. And this thing I also faced, that heaping a lot of books and a lot of notes. With notes, it is true that the conciseness of notes come over the period. My notes were like in the earlier attempt and earlier readings, it was very thick, and then you revise it again. Then you realize that did you copied more or less everything from the book.
Yes.
So this is again a second book which you created. So you narrowed it down, talk to your seniors or some friends, and then realize that this way you can make it more bullet points, and this way can make it more narrow and crispy, which is at the end what matters. As far as books are concerned, it should be very limited. For example, for microeconomics, you can go with Holverian or Kotsiani, and can supplement it with H.L. Ahuja. So like one or two book out of it, and your micro would be
good to go.
Done. Yes, ma'am. And for macro, I think Freud is the book which should be read by everyone.
Yeah.
And then you can supplement it with H.L. Ahuja. Your macro is done. Make notes out of it. From Freud, you can mainly very easily make notes out of it, because it's a not very thick book.
Yeah.
And micro, macro. Then for growth, Emil Chingan is a good book for growth and development. Some people also read Devrajre, that is also a very good book. And for econometrics, Gujarati and Porter would be sufficient. And for statistics, this S.C. Gupta is a good book, which would be good for you. And for mathematical methods for economics, there's a book by Sir Hammond. But if you find it more difficult, because it is a bit difficult on the difficult side, there's some book by R.S. Bhardwaj, and if I'm not sure, it is called MME, Mathematical Methods for Economics. So, which is a good book, and it is also taught in Delhi University. So this is, I think, and for Indian economics, you can read either Mishan Puri or Uma Kapila, and then supplement it with the current affairs, like some newspapers or some research articles, and you are good to go.
Right. Great. Actually, it has been a very insightful session, I think, for the students, because there have been all the questions that you have really nicely and very rightfully answered. There's one very curious question in my mind for you, which is in this journey, in every academic journey, every journey towards success, every student has a role model or an idol to who inspires them. Yes. So in your case, who would that be?
Ma'am, my parents, my mother and my father would be the first and the most inspiring person for me, who stood with me when I was low and things were not happening in the way it should be happened. So, and always said that it's okay, try harder and it will happen. And at the end, it did happen. So, yes, parents, by God's grace and parents' blessings, you can do. And what I think is, you should always, if you are putting your effort, which you should, on anything, and then you should try to do best on this. And at the end, once you are putting your effort, you are giving your best, have faith in it. This is something which I learned over the period. There would be doubts in your mind. Somewhere I read a line which goes like this: doubts create mountain, and faith tunnels through that mountain. So once you just think about it, you'll say that, okay, have faith, get the feedback, put your 100% effort, one day or the other, you will succeed.
Right. Absolutely. Arjit, your journey has been definitely the one which would inspire a lot of students, because every student has the ups and downs in their lives. Every candidate who's aspirant, who's an aspirant and who aspires to be one of those toppers, or what clears one of those great examinations, I think definitely this journey would help them to assure that there would be some success in their lives also, sooner or later, with the grit and determination. And I think this is where we would end with our interaction. It was very pleasant talking to you, Arjit. It was
Same,
very
ma'am.
nice.
It was good to take questions and discuss, and in some way or the other can help the aspirants and give the confidence that anyone can do anything. It's just your effort and positive thinking, and once you fall, then that you should have the resilience and start again, and one day or the other you will succeed.
Absolutely. It was very nice talking to you, and thank you, students, all of you who have joined today's live discussion with Archit. Your questions have been taken up, and maybe you must have joined in late or early, so you can rewatch this video, because now this is going to be uploaded as well. So you can rewatch this, and you can definitely look at all the answers that you would be finding. Thank you so much, Arjit, for this discussion again, and we'll keep on happening these types of discussions with candidates and with students who definitely inspire, and who are, like I said, the flag bearers of economics in the country. So thank you, and good night.
Thank you, ma'am.